Thank you very much. First and foremost, I think it is very important to commiserate with families of victims that have been involved in this unfortunate incident. I therefore want to, in my capacity as a Nigerian, a human being first, say to families whose family members, friends, and fellow citizens who have been involved in this unfortunate incident that our thoughts and prayers and sympathy is with the families. We are hopeful that by the grace of God Almighty, those who are still in captivity will be found and rescued. And we stand with the families of those who have been killed, and we pray to God for the repose of the dead. Having said that, it is important for us to state clearly and unambiguously that there is no government in the world that takes pride in watching its citizens being killed and slaughtered unjustly. No government will take pride in that. Now, beyond this, wherever you find that incidents of this nature go unabated, unchecked, and uncontrolled, or even untamed, the reality is that you would find that it is one of three issues that have basically played out, if not a combination of all three. The first is that you would find that it is either as a result of the incapacitation of the government, meaning that it has reached its depth and can no longer prefer solutions or find innovative ways of addressing the situation. Or that, secondly, the standard operating procedures, the doctrinal issues, the personnel issues, the command and control structure within the military hierarchy and the architecture are ineffective in handling the situation, and in which case there is the need to ramp them up and ensure that there's an overhaul to put in place efficient and effective systems. Or that thirdly, there is saboteur within the system. So like I said, it is either one of these three reasons or a combination of all three reasons. Now, in the context of the situation which you have spoken about, you see, the security, what we call the security circle within the realm of security and strategic studies, speaks to four basic components that make up the security circle. One of them is what is called detection. The second is what is called verification. The third is what is called reaction. And then the fourth is protection. This is how you get to secure an environment. Now, when you look at all that we have just said within the forum of these components, you will come to find that intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing is one of the key components of attaining security within the state. But beyond that, there is also reaction or action, where government is seen not to be taking action in certain circumstances, then protection will not be guaranteed. Now, you can further break this down into two broad categories. You see, the reality is of our security challenge in this country currently is that there are the sociological issues that accompanies it, and you also have the military issues on the other hand. In the realm of the sociological issues, you have the social-psychological conditioning of the average Nigerian man, which is basically a part of what is fueling this crisis. The lack of patriotism, the indiscipline amongst our people. And by our people, I'm talking about the followership and the leadership. On the flip side, you also have the socio-economic issues as well. There is the widening gap in wealth distribution and income inequality that has basically created the deepening insecurity issues that we're faced with not just in this country but on a global scale. And that has to be addressed because the frustration aggression theory is real. Where people are frustrated, they will react. So therefore, that is one. And on the flip side, you have the military issues that must be addressed. And within the realm of the military issues, you have the condition and number of our personnel. Condition is very crucial. How have we been able to equip these individuals to be able to arrest the situation that we have on hand? Are we politicizing it? What exactly do we have the political will? This is speaking to those in position of authority. And if that is the case, have we been able to look at the hierarchy of the army and all of the security apparatus and coercive apparatus, as we have talked about, what have they done in addressing the situation? Again, to allude to what Governor El-Rufai in his wisdom said, the government or the military knows where the hideout of these terrorists, and we have designated them terrorists for a reason. It is not just about nomenclature, moving them from bandits to terrorists. It is because we're trying to adhere to international standards and international best practices in taming and decimating certain individuals who have seen themselves as being stronger than the state. That's why we have tagged them terrorists. And so actions should be taken to match the terms that we have dubbed these individuals to be. And rightly so, they are terrorists. So therefore, there's the need for us to interrogate, to investigate what are the things that are on ground in terms of equipment. We are at a time where information technology is ruling the world. Have we been able to deploy the use of robotics and artificial intelligence? Have we been able to deploy the use of drones to ensure that we find the hideout of these individuals, to be able to arrest the situation, to be able to bomb? Because that's what we should be seen to be doing. You see, while there is the need for us to look at the sociological issues, i.e. the ideological underpinnings that have driven all of these issues, and they're enormous. There are a lot of them. There probably is the religious angle to it. There's probably the economic angle to it. There's a social angle to it. But all of that should come after you have been able to decimate and have reduced the capacity of these terrorists to conduct this sort of dastardly acts that they carry out on innocent Nigerians that go around about their normal businesses. So government must be seen to be in the forefront. And when we speak of government in this context, it is the central government's responsibility. And why is that so? Because of the current structure we have in place in the country. So government is or has not shown capacity, not well enough, in addressing the current security challenge we have in the country. And so therefore we must see the federal government led by the president himself, because by virtue of being the president, he becomes the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, meaning that he directs or dictates the direction of the security apparatus in the country. So the president has obviously fallen short in meeting his responsibilities, and that's why you're getting the reaction you're getting from average citizens. And of course, it is also very crucial and important that he leads from the front. When we talk about leading from the front, we're not saying, Mr. President, go to the theater of war. We're saying wherever there are cases of attacks, we should see the president address the country. We should see the president align himself with citizens who have been inflicted by these acts. The social media is good, but not good enough. The traditional media is still in the lead. Let's hear speeches from the president, address the nation, and talk about these issues so that people do not feel commonized, because it is simplistic and reductionist for us to have this level of insecurity in the country, attacks here and there, day in, day out, and lives are being claimed, and yet you hear silence, deafening silence from the corridors of power. It is not very helpful. That's one. This is in terms of the citizens. In terms of boosting the morale of the army, it is also very crucial. He used to be a soldier himself. I don't think he's a stranger to this. You should be seen to speak to the army. We are fighting war. This is a wild war. And we're fighting a war on several fronts. We're seeing emerging threats to our security architecture, to the territorial integrity of the state, from different nooks and crannies of the country. There's the ECN in the south. You have so much elements within the northwest alone, let alone the north central, let alone the northeast. You have the farmer herder. So there's just so much on the plates of Nigerians. So therefore, there's the need for the president to be seen in the forefront to do these things. Because if you don't boost the morale of your soldiers, they will not be able to perform. And again, like I said, we need to interrogate the sort of equipment that these individuals, these soldiers, these whatever security personnel are out there fighting this war. We need to interrogate what exactly they're being furnished with. Well, a number of factors can be pointed to in that regard. And whatever we will be saying, partly will be within the realm of speculation because we do not have available data at our disposal. We have just talked about the budgetary allocation to the army and all of the security architecture we have in the country, and how there is a deficit in terms of administration of the budgets and what goes to where. That's one issue. You see, over the years, we have misplaced priorities. This is a reality of what has been happening in this country. And this is not just affecting the security sector alone. It is something that has affected virtually all sectors, including the educational sector. Now, government needs to prioritize properly, because when you continue to misplace priorities and give attention to areas that you assume would turn the fortunes of the country around, it is going to be quite impossible. See, there's a huge misunderstanding or misconception in investment. Investing in capital projects basically is in three spheres. There's a short, medium, and to the long term. If you don't invest in the short term, people will not see the result. You're not going to be in office for 10 years or 20 years. It's 4 years. If you are lucky enough, people re-elect you to return back. So whatever you're doing, you must ensure that you look at the realities on ground and invest in those areas that will yield instant results. And that's exactly what should happen to even the security architecture as well. Where the country is faced with the grappling challenge of insecurity, you should be able to draw out a national military and a national defense strategy that would speak to the immediate issues, from the formation in the theater of war, which is the theaterics, to intelligence gathering and intelligence sourcing. You must be able to invest significantly in these areas and not just assume that as investing in other areas which you think would better the situation would solve the problem. So I think that's the first thing that needs to be addressed. Ensuring that prioritizing is reconsidered to be able to address the immediate challenges of what exactly is going on so that we can reap results instantly. The second thing, in my view, that is basically leading to these challenges we're being faced with, because this is not just a challenge with the current administration, it's something that has been long-standing. Successive administrations have faced this same problem, is that we find that there are saboteurs within the system. Particularly, I say this with some level of caution, but certain individuals within the bureaucracy. We have a civil service who are supposed to be superintendents in ensuring that budgetary allocations are worked on to the letter. These individuals are the people who conspire and ensure that these things derail because they want to invest these monies in their private pockets, which shouldn't be the case. So we have a civil service that is a bandwagon of liability. Majority of it, I'm not saying all of it, we have very good men and women within the civil service. But the reality is a chunk of them are people who connive and ensure that the system fails. Why? Because the status quo benefits certain individuals. So I think a lot more needs to be done. And the reality of all of this is this, that wherever you allocate, you don't monitor. There is no M&E, you don't have a proper monitoring and evaluation team. You sit in the comfort or discomfort of your office and assume that Nigerians or the people whom you have given this dictates to will go out and carry out these responsibilities efficiently, then you'll be lying to yourself. We are not that ripe. We haven't gotten to that place yet. So we must ensure that there is a superintending body besides just those people in the civil service who would ensure that these things are being done. We should see oversights being carried out by individuals within the security sector, for us to have a proper reform within the security sector. Because when you look at the security sector reform, you will find that the main actors within the security sector reform, the first or top on the list, are oversight bodies and management institutions. So if we don't see these things happening, of course, naturally, the end result is going to be that we will begin to see this sort of repercussion. And lastly, Nigerians need to begin to awaken themselves, to enlighten themselves, to learn about what budgetary allocations are, to be able to question and interrogate the system and ask for receipts. Because we've seen these things play out in the past. The private jet of a pastor was used to convey weapons into this country or to go out there and purchase weapons. And perhaps it's exactly what we're saying. But again, like I said, this is still within the realm of speculation. We do not have any conclusive evidence to that effect, but that we have seen. And perhaps there is the tendency that it's the same thing playing itself out. Now, if we continue this way and Nigerians do not have the wherewithal, meaning the knowledge, the capacity to interrogate issues. Knowledge is not about going through institutions of learning alone. It is about understanding your environment and being able to translate that knowledge into something. Interrogate, ask questions. So until Nigerians begin to awaken to that responsibility and interrogate people both at the National Assembly and in the executive, then we will continue to be in this quagmire, unfortunately.